teacups, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. Today we are looking at 3 streams from Foodie Beauty. Coffee and going for a drive, eat lunch with me, and I had to block him. Oh well, let's cook. Now, we're not going to be doing the usual chronological blow by blow with this recap today because I feel like a lot of the talking points kind of went over 3 streams, so I'm kind of lumping them together, but I'll also kind of go through just some of the points I want to touch on. It's not going to be very many, so famous last words, but it should be a quick one today. So we started with coffee and going for a drive. She decides to go to the long road to have something to do, we presume. She walks a little bit in the park. She talks about wanting a boat because she has good memories of sunbathing in her stepdad's boat when she was younger. And so at some point she wants that. She does have a few moments where she's like, and we've seen this, you know, when she's like, oh, I want to go to France. I want a boat. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I don't think it's any more than a fleeting thought, but she does tend to stick on these points. And we'll probably hear about it for a few days and then she'll forget about it. But you do get a sense of sort of the impulsive nature of, oh, I want. At some point she decides to roll herself down a hill. I think because she's had Kate Bush's running up a hill in her head for days now, and somehow that's become roll down the hill. I don't know if that's a joke she's had with her visas or what, but she survives the experience, so we're all doing good. I imagine it drew some glances by park goers. Hopefully she looked around, but she was in a public place. I'm guessing a few people looked. She does mention as she's driving how wasteful it is to be getting coffee every day. And I will say this is a conversation that does go through and we will talk about in a little bit more detail, but she has been making stuff at home a lot more recently. Now, I don't know how tight her budget is at the moment. I know she did say, was it this month or was it last month? Am I getting them confused? But she was saying at some point that the next few months were going to be tight. And at some juncture, she did say, I think that all her money was spoken for this month. I think it was this month. I could be confusing it. Apologies if there are any better historians out there than me. There we go. So I wonder exactly how much of that is already out of her account. We are hitting like a week before payday now, so I'd imagine things are getting tighter. She did make a comment at some point that she was making more money than ever, so next month should be a bit more lucrative, I guess. I guess she must have seen a bump, I guess she must have seen a bump back up, but yeah, I don't know exactly what her financial situation was at the beginning of the month, so I don't know how much of what she's doing is a choice versus enforced and making the best of it, you know, and angling it as a big like glow up, you know, the glow up arc she's been touting while raging about NADA every other second. That I don't know how much of it is can't afford to do anything else, so I'm gonna say I'm doing it on purpose. So we roll on into eat lunch with me, and that conversation continues as we go through here. And she's talking about how she wants to think about her financial future, which is a really sensible thing to do. But the way she sort of cherry picks the things that she's going to make these steps with always strikes me as a little bit odd. Maybe not odd, but I don't think at any point she's thought through her budget properly. And I really think she would benefit from doing that. I'll go into it in a minute. But she mentioned, you know, you just pee out Starbucks. Guys, I love me a Starbucks. I will spend the money on buying takeout coffee. I will do it. But she has so many other wasteful habits that it seems like she's got enough money. She could do Starbucks every day if she wanted to, if she really enjoys it, if she likes the motion and the routine of going for it, which she seems to. She could afford to do it if she wants to. But you can't sit there and go, well, you just pee Starbucks out, but you're cooking the HelloFresh that you don't actually want, that you refuse to cancel while being surrounded by $600 of Costco groceries. That to me does not make sense. There are other choices you can make here and keep the things that bring you actual pleasure. Her money in general is always something that's fascinated me because she says herself, she says, I have money, but I'm not wealthy. And that is an actual factual point I think she recognizes. And it's bizarre to me. I know we've talked about it before, I know we have, but there's so much she could do in just like bigger and broader strokes, because she approaches her money the way she approaches a diet, where she's like, I'm afraid this will go wrong and I will fail, so I'm going to focus on taking baby steps that I can implement. But actually with her finances, she's at the point where baby steps are not really going to do that much, but she could do bigger steps and still really not feel it that much, you know? And she doesn't, but I would say maybe like go through your Amazon order history and see, like, use it like a spending tracker. See exactly how much you've spent on Amazon this month. I want to see that as an answer. We see all the boxes, but we don't really see where it's going, because you could categorize what you've spent on Amazon. Are you just filling up with one or two groceries that you don't actually need or could have planned better for that you can get cheaper? Are you ordering big ticket items, and in which case, have you used them since you got them? Because when she was doing clear outs of her apartment, she kept finding things she'd never used. And when you start looking at that, I'm betting she could cut her Amazon bill in half and still not really feel the cramp if she were at all willing to do that. But like I say, she's very all or nothing. So she makes these smaller cuts that really aren't going to see the progress as much as tackling the big things, but affect her day-to-day enjoyment of life much more than doing a bigger thing that she wouldn't really care about that much. For example, she doesn't really want the HelloFresh. She could cancel the HelloFresh and the cost of the HelloFresh would cover the cost of her having coffee every day. But then she's going either or instead of both. And it seems like a minor thing. Yes, she'd technically still be spending the money, but she'd be halving how much she spent. I'll tell you what I think she should use, actually. Do you have, okay, hashtag not sponsored, right? But do you guys have, and by you guys I mean American Canadians, people outside of the UK. In the UK, there is an app called Hyperjar. And it's kind of a cross between a banking and a budgeting app, where what you do is it's like a virtual account, and they send you a card, MasterCard debit, I believe it is. And then you can set up your budget in it. You make jars for each category. So you've got groceries, you've got eating out, you've got, I don't know, Amazon, you've got rent, whatever it is, yeah? So at the beginning of the month, you transfer the money you're going to use in your budget, which you would have already done jars for, and you transfer it into your Hyperjar wallet, yeah? And then all you do when you pay for something, so say I've got $500 in my grocery jar, and then I go and pay for a load of groceries, I would just tap the grocery jar and it would link up to my card. So when I paid for my purchase on my card, it would automatically take it out of the grocery category. Yeah? So that's basically, like, that's how I mean by when I say it's a cross between like a budgeting and a banking. The reason I think something like that would be really great for Chantal is she gets all gung-ho with the setup of a budget. She's like, I'm gonna do it, let's see. But then the consistency needed to track every single thing you spend is actually something that does require focus and requires, as I say, consistency and to keep the momentum going. Sorry, completely forgetting my words for a second. So what an app like that would do is to take that work out of it. Because instead of spending and then having to reconcile your receipts to your spreadsheet that you'd have to fill in yourself, it would just categorize it for you. And how much you have left in each category would always be visible. So, I mean, I know when it comes to it, she's got a lot of ideas that she doesn't follow through on, but it seems like a great option for her. If you've got an equivalent app, if you don't have that one, it seems like a good option for her, because it's essentially like cash envelopes, but digitally, because they do send you the card. It's a prepaid debit. And then all of her fixed expenses can just come out of her primary account, and the rest of her money can stay in her primary account. So she'll have all this is what I spend a month separate, so she doesn't kind of erode the money she has left. And she'll be able to see really clearly, okay, well, this is how much comes out of my bank in fixed amounts. So she was saying at some point, oh, I need to pay attention to my bank. And this would be a really easy way to do it. If he just said, okay, everything's going through this card that I'm doing myself, that's variable in the month, and anything else is coming out of there, so you've got a number. Sorry, I know I've rabbited on about this for quite a while, but I just, again, not sponsored, but I just feel like it would be a great idea for her, because most of the work that she doesn't want to continue doing would just be done. Anyway, while we're talking about things that will never happen, let's move on. So she goes to, I had to block him, oh well, let's cook. She's blocked the 22-year-old. The 22-year-old who came over, they had a very energetic night together that wasn't entirely pleasant for her. Don't get me wrong, she went on and on and on about it, because if a really hot guy wants her, then look how much value she has. But she didn't actually enjoy the experience. She said it hurt, she said she bled, which is very concerning, and she should get checked because you shouldn't be bleeding during sex. Don't care how big he is, you shouldn't be bleeding during sex. And she was planning on seeing him either today or yesterday, I can't remember exactly which. And she was saying at some point, well, no, my anxiety's quite bad, I don't know if I can. And then at one point she was being like, oh no, we're gonna have a healthy lifestyle and I'm gonna get fitter so that we can have this amazing sex that isn't really amazing, but never mind. So it can be more amazing, I guess, so she can keep up with him. Lots of stuff. And then, so before the second date, haven't gotten her freebie. Before the second date, the dude is like, yeah, remember, he doesn't speak English very well and he hasn't been in Canada for long, and oh, even though he definitely has a construction job, I'm not getting jobs and I do need to send some money to my family, and you know, I need 1,000 and I've only got 300. Thank you. And she was like, oh, really? No, blocked. Red flags. That's not even, I wouldn't call that a red flag. I think we're beyond red flags are like signals. That's an outright thing. That's saying, okay, you've tasted the goods, you've had your trial period, do you want to buy? And if you want to buy, we can play. And that's beyond a red flag to me. That's a transaction. And it's, if you want to make that transaction, that is up to you, but Foodie didn't and she blocked him. So she does continue to talk about Nadia and Didi while also continuing to say how glad she is that she's over them. And I'm like, one of these things is not like the other. Could you make a choice? Either you're over and you don't need to discuss them, or you're definitely not over and you need to discuss them. And I feel like those two things should be mutually exclusive. But she continues to post community posts using insulting names about them. She does rage every now and again about it. She does talk in detail at some point in this stream about the kind of things that went on between her and him, and I don't want to get into it again. You know, like, you believe her or you don't believe her, but we've all heard this before, and I don't want to rehash it. She is doing something though, because she's very much over this. She is blocking her paid members. She's going into other streams of creators she doesn't like. If she sees her paid members engaging there, she is blocking her paid members in her chat. So that's against terms of service, right? So she doesn't care, but she's doing it. And she's said in a few screams now, oh, scream into the void. She said in a few streams now that that is what she's doing. She's confirmed that's why she's doing it. You can't be a Beezer and be interacting in other chats. It's not allowed, right? So the thing is, this is against terms of service. And the reason it is not because of the money. It's not a case of, well, she blocked them and therefore they're not getting what they paid for, because the act of blocking them makes them eligible for a refund. They can get their money back if they are blocked. So she's not stealing. It's an extra step for them to get the refund. They have to request it, but she's not stealing if they can get their money back. So that's not what's breaking it here. But the thing is, YouTube in general doesn't like anything that interferes with other creators generating more views, more super chats, earning by extension the platform more money. Yeah, so if she says to her Beezers and she threatens them with blocking if they turn up there, she is potentially denying him an audience and interaction and super chats. And YouTube isn't down with that. That's actually classified under the harassment and cyberbullying, because it targets a creator and has a negative impact. Yeah, So I don't think she cares, but she is breaking TOS. Now you can argue they've got quite the history, and God they have. But she is never ever careful about how she runs her channel. And this is one thing that very straightforwardly Nada could be like, I'm reporting your streams for doing this, because she's been very, very clear as to her reason. She said it on chat. So if it ever became anything, because they do tend to slap out at each other, I could see him slapping out in that way. There isn't a lot more to discuss because I am avoiding most of the Nada chat, but during the Nada chat, there were mentions of the paper clips incident, and she says it was drug-induced paranoia, which I can 100% believe it was. I think she was on magic mushrooms at the time, but it was odd that she mentioned it simply because it's a very different tone. It's sort of excusing what he did. It's blaming it on drugs rather than anything going on in her life at the time. And if she's gonna rage about how she was abused during their relationship, it seems odd in that moment just to excuse it, because the paranoia, according to her, was coming from somewhere. And I don't just mean the drugs, I mean the situation she was in, and then the drugs was making it worse. So it was just a little bit of an odd thing. But speaking of Nada, which she always does, she says she has given herself closure. She won't get closure from him, she has given it to herself. And then went on to talk about the relationship for, I think it was a solid half hour. But yeah, so very much a closed book. Yeah, guys, we're moving on. It is what it is. Okay, I think I've only been here 20 minutes, but there we are. She did have another one called Bedtime Beeson, which didn't really have much in it, I didn't feel, kind of rehashing a few points that we had talked about already. It was just in the dark, lying on her bed. Usually at that point, it's the end of the night. She loses cohesion as the day goes on. So these bedtime ones, unless she's full out raging, there isn't really a lot. But yeah, that's where we are. That was basically all I found worth taking out of those 3 streams. There was more. If you are interested in getting more minute details, you can go and watch a stream or go watch another reactor. I know Pulpy covered a fair amount of this because I was in his chat for a while, but if you're looking for a little bit shorter, there we go. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for your attention, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.